Hello and welcome back. Tonight we will travel back in time to a realm that feels both familiar and strange. Picture a planet encased in ice, where massive sheets of frozen water blanketed continents, and gigantic creatures roamed the frigid plains. Our ancestors gathered around flickering fires, crafting tools and weaving tales from bones and stones. This era is known as the Ice Age, an extensive period lasting millions of years, which continues to influence our planet in ways we're still uncovering. Before we embark on this journey, take a moment to find your comfort. Perhaps you're listening in the stillness of night, surrounded by a gentle hum. Or maybe you're seeking a peaceful sanctuary as you satisfy your curiosity. Either way, let's embrace a slow-paced exploration where time is irrelevant. Just as the Ice Age unfolded gradually, so too can we wander through this narrative. Entire lifetimes passed without anyone realizing the world was in flux. First, grasp that the Ice Age was not merely a continuous freeze. It was characterized by cycles of icy glacial epochs and warmer interludes called interglacials. The Earth's climate changed, influenced by subtle adjustments in its orbit, tilt, and even the slight wobbling that resembles a spinning top. Shifts in sunlight restructured the world, causing oceans to withdraw and land bridges to rise, while entire ecosystems waned and flourished like shifting tides. But let's pause the scientific discourse for now. Visualize the land itself. You stand on what will eventually become Northern Europe, North America, or Siberia. No cities or forests are in sight. Instead, a massive wall of ice, hundreds of meters tall, stretches endlessly before you. The air is sharp, dry, and laden with the scent of snow. Yet, despite the bitter chill, life thrives. Herds of woolly mammoths traverse the icy terrain, their great tusks shimmering in the soft light. Gigantic ground sloths wander the Americas, and saber-toothed cats lurk low in the grass, their muscles taut, with elongated teeth glimmering like polished ivory. To the south, where ice never reached, regions flourish with lush forests and flowing rivers. In these warmer spots, humans have found ways to endure. They follow herds, hunting with spear-tipped stones, and gather around fires to share warmth. Unbeknownst to them, they inhabit what we now label the Ice Age. For them, it simply constitutes existence. This is the peculiarity of the distant past. It was not a frigid wasteland across the globe. While northern continents lay trapped in ice, the equatorial regions remained warm enough for vibrant jungles and parched deserts. Life was adaptive, mobile, and persistent. The Earth during the Ice Age was colder, yet wilder, sharper, and rich with contrasts. The tale stretches back far before humans appeared. For millions of years, our planet oscillated between hot and cold eras, each leaving imprints in stone and soil. Scientists decipher this chronology from hints gathered in ice cores drilled from the depths of Antarctica and Greenland. Layer upon layer, these cores enclose tiny bubbles of ancient air, allowing us to reconstruct the atmosphere from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Through this, we understand that the Ice Age did not descend abruptly. It advanced gradually, glaciers inching forward, retreating, then advancing again, resembling an unrelenting tide grinding rock into dust. As the ice expanded, it reshaped the land beneath it. Mountains formed jagged peaks, valleys deepened, and colossal boulders were shoved across terrain as if mere pebbles. Even now, if you wander through parts of Canada, Scandinavia, or the northern United States, you can still observe these telltale signs: lakes shaped by moving ice, U-shaped valleys that signal long-gone glaciers, and stones transported hundreds of kilometers from their original locations. The sea level dropped more than 100 meters, as so much water was confined in ice sheets, leading to larger continents. Asia and North America connected via a land bridge we now refer to as Beringia, a frozen highway across today's Bering Strait. This bridge influenced geography and history, enabling both humans and animals to migrate between continents, spreading life across the globe in ways that echoed for millennia. Imagine standing on that bridge. The wind cuts across the barren tundra, carrying snow that never settles. Herds of caribou and mammoths move in unbroken lines, grazing on the stalks of dry grass that somehow endure here. Wolves stalk from a distance, their fur thick against the cold. Following, small groups of humans trudge along, donning furs, their breath curling in the frigid air. Every step they take leads them to a new reality. What's remarkable about this time is how interconnected all life was. When glaciers expanded, the earth dried up, as so much water was locked away in the icy embrace. Deserts grew while lush tropical forests diminished. Where grass once flourished, vast plains emerged. This immense steppe environment, as scientists occasionally call it, spread across much of Europe, Asia, and North America. While harsh, it teemed with life, playing host to vast herds of grazing animals that could sustain both predators and the first human hunters bold enough to pursue them. Yet, even amid its scale and intensity, the Ice Age wasn't static. Every few tens of thousands of years, the ice retreated, temperatures increased, and the planet rejuvenated. Rivers surged, forests returned, and the vast grasslands shrank. These warm intervals never lasted forever. Sooner or later the glaciers would creep forward again, slowly but inexorably, until the world froze once more. During one of these warmer stretches, humans began to flourish. They evolved skills to craft blades from stone, render their lives onto cave walls, and eventually stepped into what we classify as history. Nonetheless, the remnants of that icy epoch have never truly disappeared. Not only do we see them in the earth, but also within ourselves. Our migrations, myths, and even our bodies bear marks from that time. To fully comprehend the world we inhabit today, we must revisit that frozen landscape to witness the glacier's movement and great beasts traversing paths, remembering that the world has undergone numerous transformations before becoming what it is now. Thus, let's continue our walk into the cold. The wind is rising, and the horizon is veiled in white. More awaits us to discover. For this is merely the beginning, and the Ice Age has much more to reveal. The advancing cold did not arrive abruptly. It enveloped the earth in slow, imperceptible waves, so gradual that no single lifespan could encompass its change. However, over thousands of years, the transformation was unavoidable. It commenced with minor shifts in the planet's orbit, tilts and wobbles that appeared inconsequential to those living on the surface. Yet these subtle movements altered how much sunlight reached the northern regions. Over time, summers turned cooler. Snow that once melted each year began to linger longer. Eventually, that lingering snow solidified into ice. Imagining its former state can be nearly impossible, but the northern continents were once verdant, replete with forests and open plains. Rivers flowed freely, and creatures grazed over lands we now recognize only as frozen tundra. With the passing centuries, and due to each summer's failure to melt the previous winter's snow, slow accumulation began, layer upon layer, year after year, compacting until the frost turned solid. From these beginnings, the first glaciers formed, and once they began to move, nothing could halt them. The vast ice sheets didn't materialize in an instant. They progressed inch by inch, like armies advancing steadily forward. At their zenith, these glaciers were colossal enough to envelop entire landscapes, swallowing mountains and valleys. The Laurentide ice sheet expanded across much of North America, covering Canada and stretching deeply into what is now the United States. Across the Atlantic, the Finno-Scandian ice sheet blanketed Scandinavia, pushing further south and reshaping land with its overwhelming mass. In the southern hemisphere, even the heights of South America and New Zealand possessed their icy crowns. As the world cooled, the very atmosphere transformed. With so much water trapped in ice, ocean levels dropped, revealing vast areas once concealed beneath waves. Wind swept across exposed plains, carrying dust for hundreds of miles, settling in thick layers that still reside under soil in parts of China and the American Midwest. During these dry, windy conditions, forests withered and grasslands expanded, causing entire ecosystems to shift southward while seeking warmth. Yet Earth is complex. Its climate results from multiple forces operating in tandem. Although orbital alterations initiated this process, they were not alone in spinning the wheels of the Ice Age. Volcanic eruptions injected ash and gas into the sky, dimming sunlight and causing further cooling. The oceans contributed as currents shifted, sequestering more heat in the depths. As this cycle of cooling progressed, it perpetuated itself till the planet settled into an entirely distinct state. Even amidst this icy world, however, life persevered. Plants acclimated to the cold, spreading across glacier edges, while resilient grasses took root in the expansive steppes. Creatures followed suit, woolly mammoths and mastodons, with their thick fur and insulating fat, roamed in massive herds. Bison, musk oxen, and reindeer populated the open plains, foraging tirelessly on the dry tundra. Predators thrived as well. Saber-toothed cats lurked in shadows, while giant dire wolves tracked their prey across the snowy expanses. Beyond the great beasts, the smaller survivors thrived too. Foxes darted between snowdrifts, birds migrated on ancient routes, and rodents burrowed into frozen earth. Each living creature carved out its niche, shaped by a world where the rules of survival were as harsh as they were consistent. Humans arrived in this setting much later, yet even before their presence, the Ice Age had already etched its mark upon the land. As glaciers grew, they gouged deep grooves into the earth, pulverizing stone into fine powder. When the ice receded, it left a raw, youthful landscape, speckled with lakes formed from meltwater. In certain areas it deposited colossal heaps of stone and gravel, remnants of its slow, deliberate advance. This was not simply a reshaping of scenery. It laid the groundwork for the world upon which we tread. In many aspects this period was marked by both violence and tranquility. Glaciers advanced with relentless force while their progress remained nearly invisible in the context of a single human life. Mountains bowed under their heavy presence, yet an animal might live its entire life beneath that ice without witnessing a single inch of movement. This is the vast scale of deep time, where geological dramas unfold in increments far too slow for any pair of watchful eyes to perceive, yet leave behind traces that can last millions of years. If you could have stood at the edge of one of those early glaciers, you would have sensed it not as one feels a storm or a sudden gust of wind, but in the air's quiet density, the faint creaks of shifting ice, and the unending stillness of a frozen horizon. The sky would have bore pale dryness, the sun low, and the land silent except for the distant cracking of ice as it pressed forward. But this was just the introduction. As time unfolded, the cold intensified, the glaciers grew, and the world entered a profoundly transformative phase in its history. Yet, this frozen realm was not devoid of life. It evolved, sculpting the lands and the seas, ultimately determining the fate of humans tasked with surviving within it. And so, the stage was set. A planet enveloped in ice, lands shaped by forces too vast for a single glance, and a world where survival required adaptation in ways no creature had previously encountered. From this frozen stage, the Ice Age's true narrative sprang forth, unfolding one slow step at a time. In this epoch where glaciers ruled the land, the beasts that walked upon it were unlike anything alive today. This was an age of giants, molded by a world both unforgiving and expansive, where size itself became a strategy for survival. Standing in that realm would have illuminated your smallness, regardless of who or what you were. The great herds were the first to emerge. Imagine an expansive, frigid plain teeming with pulsing life. Woolly mammoths marched in enormous lines, their shaggy coats swaying like heavy curtains, their massive curved tusks slicing through the air as they sifted through the snow for grass. These were not solitary animals. They congregated in groups, sometimes by the dozens, even hundreds, traversing the steppe in search of sustenance. The impressions they left behind were etched deeply into the frozen land, carving trails stretching for miles. Alongside them lumbered mastodons, stockier relatives of mammoths, equipped with shorter legs and straighter tusks, suited for navigating the mixed forest clinging to glacial plains borders. They stripped bark and branches with perseverance, laying waste to the land as they moved from one sheltering grove to the next. However, mammoths and mastodons were not alone in this frozen procession. The grasslands thrived with bison, their robust frames and thick coats shielding them against the biting winds. Musk oxen, squat and sturdy, formed tight defensive circles when predators approached, while reindeer, ancestors to caribou, traversed inexorably, their hooves beating a rhythm as ancient as the glaciers themselves. Predators thrived too. Dire wolves prowled the peripheries of herds, larger and stronger than modern descendants. Their jaws were designed for shattering bones. Saber-toothed cats, with their long, curved fangs, lay in wait among sparse shrubs, ready to ambush prey, often much larger than themselves. Even cave lions, lean yet nearly twice the size of contemporary lions, spanned the steppe, hunting in coordinated packs that could take down formidable victims. And looming over this already harsh world were the glaciers themselves. These titanic rivers of ice rose like frozen sentinels in the distance, their sheer faces fissured with deep blue crevasses. While they moved slowly, their influence was undeniable. The air surrounding them held an icy chill that sliced through the thickest firs, while each crack of shifting ice echoed for miles, a reminder to all living beings of the immense power ever present just beyond reach. Yet for all their dominating presence, the glaciers were not fixed in place. They inched forward and back, grinding across continents, stripping away soil and reshaping the world beneath. Where they passed, they left behind smooth stones absolutely bare, the result of their oppressive weight. They carved valleys that would later fill with rivers and lakes, laying the foundation for cliffs and ridges that would influence animal migration paths, pushing them into new territories and creating new prospects for predators. Even in the shadows of those glaciers, life continued. Creatures adapted in remarkable ways. Many Ice Age mammals sported thick layers of fat beneath their hides for insulation against the bitter air. Their dense pelts were enveloped in wool so fine It trapped warmth close to their skin. Some species developed blood that circulated oxygen more efficiently, keeping limbs unfrozen even in the harshest winds. Humans, too, adjusted to this environment. For our ancestors, mammoths represented both danger and opportunity. From their bones came shelter, from their hides, clothing, and from their meat, sustenance that enabled small groups of hunters to survive in a climate where food could be elusive, and the nights long and frigid. Yet the vast scale of the Ice Age world dwarfed any single life. A glacier could stretch hundreds of miles. A herd of mammoths could take days to traverse from one horizon to another. Even the sky appeared larger, its pale light pushing through snow and ice in every direction. Comfort was not this world's design. Instead, it demanded endurance, forging both human and animal alike into remarkable survivors. To stand on that cold, wind-swept land was to witness Earth in one of its rawest forms. The air could sting, distant glaciers shifted like the groaning of an ancient beast, while creatures larger than houses moved slowly in deliberate lines across the horizon. Everything exemplified a planet reshaped by forces far beyond the influence of any single creature. Yet within it there existed balance. The glaciers advanced, but they receded. Giants thrived, but they also fell to hunters or disappeared in the snow when food dwindled. Life endured, not through conquering the cold, but by learning to coexist within it. As the world traversed through these frozen millennia, that balance faced countless tests. The climate fluctuated, ice thawed into warmth, and then returned again. Animals migrated, adapted, or vanished. In the midst of it all, humans kept observing, learning, and following the earth and its ice-bound giants in their slow dance. Now, as we delved deeper into this frozen past, we spotlight the driving forces behind it all, the strange, intricate alterations in our planet's climate, and how they initiated the events we've outlined. The cold was never a steady state. Even during the Ice Age's peak, the world was not simply locked in a singular freeze. It breathed. Over tens of thousands of years, temperatures oscillated like a sluggish tide, and with each shift the glaciers advanced or retreated, reshaping the land and dictating the lives reliant on it. To truly understand this epoch, it's insufficient to envision a planet submerged in snow. We must observe how that snow shifted, deepened, and relented, marking the narrative of the Ice Age. At the heart of this rhythm were cycles still traceable today. The Milankovitch cycles, named after the mathematician who first quantified their patterns. They're driven by Earth's movement around the sun. Not in perfect circularity, but in an extended dance that morphs over tens of thousands of years. The shape of our orbit stretches and relaxes, while Earth's axial tilt angles slightly more at times and a bit less at others. Even the gentle wobbling of the planet like a spinning top alters how sunlight reaches various regions. Each of these changes happens too slowly for any single generation to observe, yet together they change everything. When there's a reduced angle of tilt, summers in the northern hemisphere cool. Snow that falls in winter remains longer the following year, and the ice expands. Conversely, as the tilt intensifies, summers grow warmer and more potent, melting more snow, leading to ice retreading. This interplay remains balanced, subtle yet unrelenting, shaping our planet in cycles of cold and warmth, echoing across expansive stretches of time. Yet these orbital variations alone do not wholly explain the Ice Age's magnitude. Earth's climate thrives on a complex web of feedback, where each small alteration prompts another shift. When glaciers spread, they reflect increased sunlight into space, further cooling the planet, As temperatures drop, oceans absorb carbon dioxide, sequestering it and decreasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This reduction in turn leads to more cooling, allowing ice to expand, and this cycle functions symmetrically. When the Earth begins to warm, glaciers recede, dark land exposures and open waters draw in additional heat. Oceans release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. This traps warmth, reversing the feedback loop, and glaciers then withdraw. In essence, the planet does not simply shut down or escape from an ice age abruptly. It oscillates continually between states, like a pendulum. Within these expansive cycles are smaller jolts, sudden bursts of warmth or cold rippling across the ice age landscape. Some arise from oceanic shifts, adjusting currents that redistribute heat between equatorial and polar regions. Others result from massive volcanic eruptions, releasing ash and sulfur into the atmosphere and dimming sunlight for years. At the margins of great ice sheets, massive lakes sometimes formed behind walls of frozen water. When these icy barriers failed, they unleashed floods colossal enough to redraw coastlines and possibly alter climate for centuries. To endure these transformations was to witness the world tilt ever so slightly out of balance before settling again. For the animals inhabiting these steppes, it meant aligning their migration with the ever-changing landscape. Mammoth and bison herds would plunge south during deep freezes, only to move north once ice relinquished its hold. Predators followed closely behind their prey. Small groups of early humans, hunters and gatherers, learned to track these shifting patterns. They existed in sync with the seasons while navigating the borders of the cold. The glaciers themselves chronicled these fluctuations in silence. Each ice layer contained trapped bubbles of ancient air, encapsulated as snow accumulated and compressed over years. When scientists delve into these layers, they uncover the planet's rhythmic patterns, the signs of every advance and retreat, every sudden drop or surge in temperature. Encased in that frozen archive lies the history of the Ice Age, meticulously documented, one winter upon another, a library of deep time. It's one thing to read about this rhythm, yet another to envision it. Picture standing on a sprawling, frigid plain with a pale sky and sharp wind. Far north, an ice wall looms like a mountain range, slowly encroaching forward over centuries. Then, after millennia, a warming trend permeates the air. Summers lengthen, and the glacier's edge gradually withdraws. Water cascades, carving new rivers in the land. The ground that once lay buried in ice is now freshly exposed, raw, and open to sunlight for the first time in an eternity. Eventually, the cold returns, and the glacier's slow march resumes. This encapsulates the breath of the Ice Age, steady, powerful, and persistent enough to mold entire continents. It was not merely a single freeze or a singular thaw, but a vast, patient cycle that stretched life to its bounds, before pulling back. In this ebb and flow, animals evolved, humans adapted, and Earth transformed into the familiar world we recognize today, though much of it now lies concealed beneath the current warmth. Yet, the saga of the Ice Age encompasses more than extremes of cold and warmth. It revolves around the living world that flourished in that frozen light. While climate established the stage, it was life itself, strange, massive, and durable, that endowed the Ice Age with its essence. Beneath the cold swathes of ice and sprawling fields, life persisted not merely with anticipation of warmth, but by evolving and reclaiming its existence within one of the harshest environments the Earth has ever known. Survival amid the chill demanded more than mere endurance. It called for transformation from the tiniest insect hiding beneath the frost to the largest beasts lumbering across the frozen steppe. The earth of the Ice Age was not barren. Just beneath the snow lay an intricate world, built in miniature. In the tundra, rodents excavated a maze of burrows, their small figures protected by layers of earth and frost. Lemmings, voles, and small mammals served as the foundation of the food chain, their survival enabling countless predators above. These creatures did not hibernate entirely. Many remained active beneath the snowpack, their movements invisibly carving tunnels. Below, air was still, temperature stable, and the insulating snow shielded them from the fiercest winds. Overshadowing them, larger animals traversed the landscape. Woolly mammoths, encased in long, coarse fur with insulating underlayers, could withstand temperatures that would freeze exposed skin in moments. Their blood contained unique adaptations for oxygen release even in the coldest limbs. Even predators were armed to endure. Dire wolves and saber-toothed cats were built to be robust and strong, with powerful muscles primed to conquer prey through thick snow. Their warm coats and broad paws prevented them from sinking into frosty surfaces as they pursued quarry. Also, the cave lions, among the most gargantuan felines ever recorded, adapted to the cold, leaner yet built for forever, chasing Ice Age prey across the open tundra. Feeding this frozen realm were equally remarkable plants. At first glance, the Ice Age landscape might seem desolate, but concealed beneath the frost and during fleeting summer months, hardy vegetation thrived. Grasses dominated the mammoth steppe, flourishing from Europe to North America, rich in nutrients perfectly tailored to grazing herds that needed near constant sustenance to cope with the cold. Interspersed among them were resilient shrubs and dwarf willows that shielded low to the ground, safeguarded from unrelenting winds. These plants evolved to sustain extended periods of dormancy and thrive, only to respond rapidly to the rare bursts of summer sunlight. Even insects devised a means to persist, developing natural antifreeze in their physiology, proteins preventing their cells from fully freezing. Others deposited eggs that could withstand winter's fury, remaining dormant until the warmth of summer beckoned the next generation. Some birds adapted as well, many migrated southward, while others remained, their fluffy feathers dense, and metabolism high enough to endure frigid climates. The snowy owl, for instance, established dominance over the tundra year-round, preying on lemmings and thriving in conditions few others could withstand. Humans, fragile compared to these great beasts, also possessed their strategies for survival. Early hunters and gatherers leaned on creativity and craft, stitching furs into garments to trap warmth. They fashioned shelters from bones and hides, utilizing mammoth ribs as sturdy frames, draping thick animal skins over them. Fire became humanity's pinnacle ally, providing warmth and sustenance. It enabled food cooking, tools hardening, and a stand against the relentless dark. For these small bands of individuals, life entailed constant negotiations with cold. Each venture into the snow bore its own risks. Frostbite, hunger, and predators lurked at every turn. Yet they learned to synchronize with the seasons, trailing herds in migration, using rivers and coastlines as guiding landmarks across the unending white expanse. They crafted weaponry from stone and bone, forming points sharp enough to pierce the thick hides of hunted beasts. As time passed, their understanding of the frozen realm deepened, enabling them to exist not just despite the cold, but because they grasped its nature. The hidden life systems thrived on delicate balances. Snow didn't merely smother the world, it molded it. Underneath its weight, species learned to bend without shattering. Each adaptation, From the tiniest voles tunneling to the mammoth's insulated coat, was a response to an environment that demanded everything while offering little in return. Yet, this storyline did not solely revolve around survival. It embodied transformation. Every climate swing, every glacial advance or retreat, moved life. Species that flourished in the cold sometimes vanished with rising temperatures, while others emerged to occupy the voids left behind. The Ice Age was no frozen prison. It served as a crucible, yielding creatures and behaviors that resonate in today's living world. Even now, fragments of those survival strategies remain in tundras of Siberia or the Arctic Circle. Musk ox still stand enduring against icy winds, and Arctic foxes shift their coats with the seasons, disappearing into snow like phantoms. These remnants serve as reminders of how the Ice Age did not conclude neatly. Instead, it scattered pieces of its legacy across the earth, fragments still present, where ice remains in motion, reshaping land in ways that redefine the very core of our planet. The glaciers never stood still. They moved with a force inexorably vast, reshaping continents. Within our minds, glaciers evoke images of silent, frozen walls. However, these massive ice sheets were agents of change, grinding, crushing, and sculpting the land beneath at a time-lapse pace. The largest glacier vast expanses engulfed the northern world. In North America, the Laurentide ice sheet extended from high Arctic terrain to middle regions of the United States. Its thickness climbed higher than many mountains, while across the Atlantic, the Fennoscandian Glacier blanketed Scandinavia, expanding southward and transforming geography under its colossal weight. In the southern hemisphere, smaller ice sheets roamed the heights of South America, New Zealand, and select areas of Antarctica, once reaching farther than today. These colossal ice sheets weren't gentle. Their advancement stripped land bare. They cleared forests, crushed terrain, and ground rock to dust. Beneath their pressure, Earth's crust bent downwards, slightly sinking under the heavy load. Once the ice melted, the land slowly rebounded, a process still ongoing in areas of Canada and Scandinavia. This movement left behind recognizable landscapes, deep valleys with flat bases and steep walls, sculpted by glaciers, can still be observed in the northern regions. Gigantic boulders transported miles from their origin rest scattered across open fields, silent testaments to their long journeys, entombed within ice. Then there are the lakes, thousands filled basins gouged out by glaciers, with the Great Lakes of North America serving as an iconic example. These immense water bodies sprawl within the scars carved by the receding Laurentide sheet. However, glaciers did not merely shape the land, they also influenced Earth's waters. When ice amassed, sea levels sank, exposing expansive coastal plains. As the ice melted, oceans rose again, inundating those same plains beneath tides. Land bridges linking continents, such as the corridor bridging Asia with North America, existed solely due to the immense water entombed in ice. Each glacier shift redrew global maps. Still, ice movement was slow, with mere feet daily capable of altering landscapes. Standing before one, observers perceived a power seemingly eternal, forever in motion. You could sometimes hear sharp cracks of shifting ice, or the deep groans of frozen mass pressing against the earth. With breaking meltwater, torrents surged wildly over land, carving new channels in mere days. These weren't meandering rivers but torrents that clawed through territories with strength derived from centuries of trapped waters suddenly unleashed. In their wake, unexpected opportunities for life emerged. When the glaciers receded, they uncovered fresh ground, stripped bare and rich in minerals. Plants quickly colonized these new terrains, casting roots into the raw soil. In due course, animals followed, with the first human hunters tracing herds into formerly concealed territories. These icy sculptures also carried narratives within their layers. Trapped ice reveals ancient air, ash from past volcanic explosions, and even pollen from plants precursory of time. Each layer showcases not merely how ice sculpted land, but how it adhered to the climate's rhythm. For the living creatures of today, however, glaciers represent not history but borders, enormous, immovable barriers. For mammoths or bison, the edge of a glacier symbolized the realm's boundary, a wall demandingly crossed. Even the most ingenious humans could traverse borders only as rivers and valleys where ice hadn't yet claimed ground lurked. Thus, as ice sheets grew and receded with persistent patterns, they generated the world map we recognize now. Each rolling hill within northern Europe, every scattered lake throughout Canada, and the variegated fertile soils in the American Midwest bear witness to the glacier's imprint. They were not merely frozen water masses, they were the chisels sculpting the earth. But as they carved, they molded oceans too. When a significant portion of water remained locked in frozen masses, oceans fell. Shorelines stretched outward, giving rise to new lands emerging from abyssal depths. It was in these newly revealed regions that life, human, animal, and otherwise, discovered unforeseen journeys ahead. As mighty sheets expanded, water receded, exposing vast plains that had remained submerged for eons. Once shallow coastal waters turned to singles swept by winds. River mouths morphed into vital feeding zones for migratory birds and fish. And humans learned to harness these transformations, tracking animal trails now traversing these landscapes. In every corner of the Ice Age world, the retreating seas unveiled not only land but abundant potential. However, like the glaciers themselves, oceans would not remain static. Following climatic shifts, ice commenced its retreat and seas stealthily returned, drowning previously laid bare lands. Doggerland would succumb to the North Sea, Beringia would vanish beneath the Bering Strait, and global coastlines would transform toward familiar shapes. But that chapter remains distant. For now, locked within the heart of the Ice Age, oceans paused, and the planet remained still, caught in a balance of ice and sea that sustained the world's stature for countless millennia. During this frozen equilibrium, strong winds emerged, surging across the landscape, laden with dust. The next great force shaping this ancient realm. The cold alone did not encapsulate the Ice Age. With glaciers and low seas arose a sky thick with dust and ceaseless winds. The atmosphere of this era was not the clear, crisp air one might expect from a frozen world. Instead, it brimmed with fine particles coursing across continents, clouding sunlight and painting the skies with soft, muted hues. This dust derived from the land abandoned by ice. As glaciers advanced, they harnessed the rock beneath, grinding it into powder. When the ice receded or stalled at its boundaries, winds swept over these barren plains, lifting the finest particles into the air and propelling them hundreds, even thousands of miles. Each storm added layers, blanketing distant terrains that would evolve into some of the most fertile soils on Earth. Yet, the Ice Age atmosphere harbored equal parts wind and dust, creating an environment of extreme conditions. Vast temperature differences between the frosted north and slightly toasted south ignited powerful gusts. These winds devastated the land, packing snow into hard surfaces. Their relentless force whisked away scant warmth. During this epoch's winter, snow fell rarely, not due to chilled air, but lack of moisture. Paradoxically, the frozen heart of the Ice Age often resembled a snow desert, its surface scoured free of fresh powder. Inhabitants of this realm were wholly dependent on weather, which shaped their movements. Herds of mammoths and bison hunted for areas where wind-driven snow obliviously uncovered grass. Predators, relying on these patterns, traveled closely behind. Human routes formed strong links with nature, tracking animal trails, observing behavior, and adapting to climatic whims. Dust, while dulling the sky and coating ground, simultaneously nourished life. Winds swept nutrients across plains, distributing minerals that rendered Ice Age grasslands unexpectedly rich. This peculiar balance, an atmosphere heavy with dust and wind enduring in a land capable of nourishing numerous herds, embodied one of the Ice Age world's unique paradoxes. Visualize standing upon those wind-swept plains. The horizon expands widely, pale in color as the air bites sharply. In the distance, a haze cloaks the land, decayed dust stirred by storms. Above it all, the sun hazily glows, its rays just enough to diffuse the cold, refusing to dispel its sting. In that fleeting moment, you'd grasp the experience of dwelling beneath an Ice Age sky. Harsh, restless, yet astonishingly vibrant. The atmosphere, filled with swirling dust and sweeping winds, functioned not just as background, but as a fundamental force shaping the planet and its inhabitants. As air shifted, it bore seeds of the world lying below. The grasslands extended from horizon to horizon, defining the Ice Age with an endless frozen steppe upon which giants roamed, and survival unfolded on an epic scale. Stretching from Western Europe through Siberia and into North America, rested a land unlike anything seen today. Neither frozen tundra nor dense forest, but an expanse of wind-swept grassland sustaining some of history's most significant gatherings of animals. Termed the Mammoth Steppe, it represented the beating heart of the Ice Age. The Mammoth Steppe's enormity surpassed any single biome on Earth today. With its cold, dry air and short summers, this grassland was remarkably prolific. Thick mats of resilient grasses and herbs cloaked the ground, well versed in enduring brief growth seasons. These plants conserved energy, remaining closer to the earth where wind couldn't strip them of warmth. This overflow of grass permitted giants to flourish. Herds of woolly mammoths traversed the plains in vast numbers, their tusks digging deep through icy snow for food beneath. Steppe bison grazed endlessly, their heavy coats flowing against gusting air. Wild horses, different from those we recognize today, galloped tight-knit together across expansive fields, while woolly rhinoceroses, massive creatures equipped with immense horns, moved through the snow, prepared to defend against bold predators. The majestic predators of the Mammoth Steppe proved no less formidable. Packs of dire wolves followed herds, utilizing their size and strength to take down even the toughest animals. Cave lions, nearly twice the size of today's lions, hunted strategically in packs across the grasslands. Lastly, saber-toothed cats lurked for opportunities to strike. Their fang-like blades were adapted to pierce and kill swiftly. However, it wasn't just these imposing beasts that called this world home. Less conspicuous creatures swarmed every niche. Lemmings and ground squirrels burrowed deep beneath the earth, their tunnels crisscrossing the frozen soil like an untold web. Arctic foxes scuttled across the steppes, scavenging from larger predators' kills or hunting small rodents. Even birds haunted the skies above, waiting for opportunities to swoop down on fresh remains. And then there were humans, arriving later in history compared to their fellow denizens, yet becoming an interwoven part of the web of life. Early hunters traipsed across these open plains, tracking mammoths and bison, studying their movements while trying their skills against formidable surroundings. They constructed shelters using bones from hunted mammoths, covering them with hides for protection against the biting winds. They documented their lifeways within cave walls, leaving images that formed a narrative of admiration and survival. What distinguished the mammoth steppe was not merely its vastness, but also its consistency. For thousands of years this land functioned as its own realm, shaped by the cold yet shielded from it. The resilient grasses endured through frigid winters, lying dormant before bursting to life come summer. The cycle of freezing and renewal propped life within a web astonishingly resilient. Even as glaciers advanced and receded at the steppe's edges, the richness of this territory whispers through time. In Siberia, perfectly preserved mammoth remains encased in permafrost still cling to their fur while their stomachs retain evidence of grasses once consumed. These silent witnesses tell tales of an abundant world swayed by ice, where the soil became hard, air lay dry, yet life thrived, nourishing the giants inhabiting these realms. Standing amid such a panorama would be overwhelming, expanses stretching limitless without interruption by forests or mountains. Winds sweeping the plains would carry muted sounds of distant herds or the calls of predators on the hunt. From the smallest rodent to the grandest mammoth, each being played a role in an intricate system that transformed grass and dust into flesh and bone, with scales almost too immense to digest. But this world, despite its expanse and persistence, was not eternal. It relied on the cold for equilibrium. With shifting climates, the ice began to retreat, and forests advanced from the south, diminishing the steppe. The once great herds got constrained into ever smaller spaces, transforming the grassland of giants into mere memory, preserved only in fossils and frozen remains. Before that eventuality transpired, the mammoth steppe stood as one of Earth's natural wonders, where humans honed their survival abilities, and the Ice Age's last great beasts ruled. In this desolate yet thriving grassland, life learned how to endure in ways that would resonate long after the steppe itself faded into history. From this vast expanse, our narrative pivots to the people traversing it, not merely wanderers but survivors confronting an icy domain and discovering ways to assert their claims over it. Across the mammoth steppe and along the glacial edges, small human bands adapted to the shifting seasons. They weren't yet masters of these cold terrains. Instead, they were learning. In a land ruled by bitter winds and colossal beasts, survival required more than mere strength. It demanded knowledge, skill, and, most crucially, adaptability. To this early human existence, the cold dictated everything. They constructed shelters low against howling winds, utilizing resources available in treeless regions where wood was scarce. Mammoth bones fashioned into frames and covered with hides to create huts resilient enough to shield from brutal winter air. Inside, spaces were confined yet warm, illuminated by a vital force: fire. Fire represented more than a simple tool. It distinguished survival from doom. Families nestled together around its glow, fur layers enveloping them, extending hands toward warmth. It cooked their food, solidified their tools, and offered solace against the cold's relentless encroachment. A single flame equated to safety against a foreboding world lying just beyond their constructing walls. However, fires alone sufficed not. Mastering stone became instrumental. The early humans shaped blades, scrapers, and spear points beneficial enough to pierce mammoth and bison hides. They engineered tools from bone and antler, each crafted with precise necessity. This hunting realm offered no simplicity. It mandated cooperation. The small groups worked together to trace their prey over open ground, ambushing or corralling animals towards awaited spears. A single triumphant hunt could satiate many mouths, while failure meant days deprived of sustenance. Even amid coldness, creativity flourished. Caves scattered throughout Europe and Asia, adorned with paintings and carvings, became cultural marks. Mammoths, bison, and reindeer graced these walls, illustrated with care that suggested a keen familiarity with their subjects. These were not merely designs. They might have served instructional purposes, teaching or imparting wisdom, or even been expressions evoking something profoundly human. The urge to create persisted, even as outside elements remained harsh and cold. Shapes also materialized in the form of carvings, small figures carved from bone or ivory. Some resembled animals, others portrayed humans. The infamous Venus figurines, rounded representations of human forms, remain mysterious, yet signify minds captivated by aspects beyond mere subsistence. These early thinkers devised newfound ways of organizing their lives. Coordinated hunters learned to execute strategies that encouraged group efforts, directing animals toward specified traps. The migratory routes of the herds registered in memory, mapping the land without written scripts, but ensuring none of their expertise dissolved with time. Each skill passed from one generation to the next, crafting a survival chain extending through frigid epochs. Even fire-making evolved. Early humans not only learned to sustain flames but how to create them. By striking flint and pyrite, they ignited sparks into dry tinder, transforming embers into reliable flames. Fire transitioned from a chance discovery bestowed by nature into a tool they could produce and wield. Within this advancement lay the groundwork for everything to follow. Yet art offered a truer glimpse into their transformation. Within torchlight, cave walls morphed into more than just stone. They became canvases for memory and significance. Here, encircled by depictions of mammoths and bison, people viewed their surroundings not merely as they existed, but through the lens of understanding. In this setting, they no longer just survived within the confines of the Ice Age. They began to define it. Amid those sheltered spaces hidden from furious winds and unforgiving snow, the first inklings of culture emerged. Tools sharpened, shelters strengthened, and art grew intricate, one piece at a time, as they learned to wrestle the cold into submission rather than be subdued by it. Yet, as humans learned to manipulate their environment, they remained a small facet within it. Beyond the warm radiance of their fires and caves lay the dominion of relentless predators stalking the steppe. For those early successors to maintain their precarious position in the frozen wilderness, cohabitation with these hunters became crucial. Sharing the land while facing the same bitterly unyielding world. The Ice Age was not merely a land of herds and hunters equipped with spears. It functioned as a realm of predators, entities molded by frigid climates into efficient instruments of survival. Navigating the frozen plains implied awareness, recognizing the lurking dangers as essentially woven into the very fabric of their existence as snow and wind. Among the most fearsome predators were the saber-toothed cats. Their long, curved fangs have become enduring symbols of the Ice Age itself. Bone and enamel blades capable of penetrating deep into prey's flesh. These cats suited not long chases. Instead, they possessed stocky builds with more concentrated powerment across their shoulders and necks. They were ambush predators, remaining hidden in low bushes or along riverbanks until an unsuspecting bison or young mammoth ventured too near. When they struck, it happened rapidly and brutally, their fangs sinking into flesh before their prey even had a moment to flee. Yet they weren't the sole hunters to dread. Cave lions, nearly twice the size of modern felines, prowled the mammoth steppe. Unlike solitary saber-tooths, these grandiose cats likely hunted within packs, their teamwork amplifying their advantage over even the largest prey. Picture a cluster of them spreading silently across the snow, their golden coats melding into the pale light, their paws gliding quietly over the frozen terrain. Few animals could withstand an assault from such sizable and powerful predators. Dire wolves roamed the realm in packs, heavier and more potent than today's modern wolves. They trailed the herds, gradually wearing their prey down until exhaustion made for an easy capture. For humans, these wolves posed both threats and warnings. Their howls echoed across the steppe, a constant reminder that life in this frozen sphere never assured safety. Even smaller predators occupied vital roles within this hierarchical structure. Wolverines were fierce, aggressive scavengers overwhelming larger animals. Foxes crept along the edges of hunts, seizing every chance for scraps. Raptors floated above, waiting for susceptible moments when large hunters departed from kills to descend. Humans were not detached from this chain. They existed within it. When venturing from their shelters to hunt or scavenge, they risked intersecting paths with daunting predators. A single misstep could turn the hunter into prey. This constant tension urged people to remain cautious, to travel in groups, and to maintain bright fires at night, not merely for warmth but as a warning signal. The glow radiating from a campfire served as a fragile buffer against darkness, yet it held enough strength to keep shadows at bay. Humans' relationships with these predators embodied both fear and respect. Tracking herds of bison sometimes led them alongside dire wolves. Scavenging from mammoth remains could reveal saber-tooths already feeding on leftovers. In such instances, survival transcended mere strength. It required wit, knowing when to challenge, when to retreat, when to patiently wait for the larger predator to depart. Over time, humans gradually adjusted the balance. Borrowed spears provided them reach, while fire offered a defensive weapon even the boldest predators feared confronting. They began to shift, evolving from mere prey fighting back to rivals growing impossible to ignore. Still, this transformation didn't manifest as dominance. Instead, it materialized as a necessary truce, an uneasy coexistence upon the vast steppe where every living entity contended for precious calories of meat and fat. Predators shaped human behavior as much as they did the herd dynamics. The perpetual need to pay attention, to remain vigilant, and to intentionally plan each motion solidified into daily life. Perhaps, in proximity to saber-tooths and cave lions, humans gleaned the value of cooperation. Alone, an individual appeared vulnerable, but together, huddled around flickering flames, armed with rudimentary tools and their voices, they could withstand challenges. The Ice Age environment consistently reminded anyone, predator or human, of what lay just beyond the illumination of their fires. Herein lies the relatable struggle reflecting the fate of the Ice Age giants, determining which species would endure and which would fade into memory. The Ice Age was defined by its remarkable scale. Everywhere eyes gazed, something larger or more extraordinary than today's creatures wandered. Behemoths coexisted, an echo of a world more raw than our own. It was not solely the mammoths or saber-tooths, encompassing continents and each habitat influenced by the winds and cold. Every creature resembled something legendary, signifying this wilder planet. On open grasslands, mammoth herds did not represent the entirety of life. They shared this realm with woolly rhinoceroses, powerful and veiled, possessing enormous horns pretending as natural lances. These animals wielded strength substantial enough to fend off nearly all predators. Yet, they shared the steppe with bison taller than man, nimble wild horses possessing solid bodies, and musk oxen resilient against relentless temperatures. Further south, vast forests and temperate plains witnessed other giants' dominion. Mastodons loitered among trees, rattling trunks with their long, flexible appendages. They were relatives of the mammoth, smaller, yet equally striking. Enormous ground sloths roamed the Americas, their massive claws ripping branches down from above. Meanwhile, colossal bears, far larger than any living bear today, prowled across North America's grasslands. Their long legs allowed surprising speeds for creatures suddenly facing their wrath. Even in Australia, the realm was no less bizarre. There, giant kangaroos with agile limbs cohabitated with predatory marsupials, creatures unlike any now extant. Enormous, flightless birds, considerably heavier than ostriches, roamed the open territories, while reptiles, larger than modern counterparts, lingered in rivers and marshes, their armored forms unchanged since eons ago. Moreover, life was not merely terrestrial. The oceans held their share of Ice Age curiosities. Along the coasts, dropping sea levels presented new hunting grounds for early humans and oceanic predators alike. Marine mammals, like the colossal stellar sea cow kin to the manatee, grazed kelp meadows, while terrifying sharks still stalked distant waters. In the Ice Age, life was a global network of giants. The sheer density of these creatures contributed to the world's extraordinary nature. The mammoth steppe alongside adjoining regions formed one of history's most productive ecosystems, offering sustenance for vast herbivore populations and the predators trailing them. While food may not equate to modern abundance, cold, dry climates forged grasslands nearly uninterrupted across continents, establishing a platform for herds to roam and hunters to pursue. Humans existed within this ecosystem of creatures, balancing precariously. To hunt a mammoth or a bison meant risking everything, yet the rewards were monumental. A single accomplished hunt could nourish groups, providing bone for tools and hide for shelter. However, the impending danger of cohabiting with predators remained present. As megafauna roamed the Ice Age, humans became observers just as much as hunters. They studied behaviors of all living beings encountered, how bison clustered before storms, the routes mammoths traversed for grazing, or the patterns predators shadowing herds deployed. Every fragment of knowledge dictated life or death. Amidst perils, this was a realm of astonishing richness. Imagine standing upon a ridge, overlooking the Ice Age expanse. Before you lies an ocean of grass and movement. Mammoths trudging through the snow, bison raising clouds of frost, wild horses snorting amidst chilled air. In the distance, shadows of predators linger, methodically tailing the herds while vultures circle overhead, heads fixed on the drama below. Everywhere the world thrummed with untamed vibrancy. Such abundance proved delicate, bound to cold, the vast glacier reach an encompassing steppe where it unfolded. As the climate fluctuated and ice dwindled, edges would fold slowly into forests, overtaking grasslands cascading behind the great herds. In this wilder earth period, humans refined their methods, sharpening tools, educating their minds, and cultivating determination. They existed not solely under giants' shadows, but learned from them. As ice stealthily began its complete withdrawal, the mutually beneficial interactions between humans and colossal beasts would shift, permanently altering the Ice Age's narrative. The Ice Age's conclusion was not marked by any single event or decisive warming. It wasn't an abrupt fall into warmth or a quick disappearance of glaciers. Rather, it was a gradual, uneven retreat, a methodical unraveling of the vigorous frozen grip that held the world in place for eons. The Earth's states shifted in minor increments, with each change drafting consequences reshaping the lands, the seas, and the lives that intertwined with them. It all began with warmth so subtle it may have gone unnoticed. Summers lengthened slightly, while the thick snows that lingered deep into the year started thawing completely. Glaciers, the immense rivers of ice, noted the difference first. Their edges softened. Water began trickling down their flanks, carving channels that expanded and deepened with each passing season. Silent and still no longer, what had once remained unmoving would no longer languidly advance toward urgent movements. The initial meltwater dissipated like knives cutting through the landscape. Bursting forth from beneath ice, glacial rivers flowed, pushing silt and fragments, reshaping valleys while carving new pathways. Lakes formed where the ice had blocked their ascent, only to descend in fierce catastrophic floods once the barriers finally surrendered. Each flood surged through the land with an unbeatable force, leaving behind scars that would endure for centuries. As glaciers retreated, sunlight unveiled raw ground, a terrain that had not received light for millennia. Initially barren, this land shone clear, scraped by glacial weight. Yet life wasted no time renewing its claim. Mosses and lichens crept in first, clinging to exposed rocks, soon followed by grasses that took root in fresh soils carried by winds. Gradually, this naked ground morphed into thriving ecosystems, green threads unfolding across the raw gray scars left behind by the retreating glacial masses. In their wake, animals arrived. Herds of bison and mammoth migrated onto the newly unveiled plains, exuberantly grazing upon burgeoning plants. Predators stalked them, taking on legendary roles. Now, in a shifting landscape, humans too pressed onward, tracking rivers, hunting the edges of receding glaciers, vaulting into regions previously entombed in ice for ages. Yet the ice's withdrawal remained unsteady. Pauses and even reversals occurred. Warming phases yielded sharp, sudden returns of chill, moments when the ice relentlessly surged forward, reclaiming lost terrains. These brief changes served as reminders of just how complex the Earth's shifts could be. One of the most dramatic reversals unfolded in the Younger Dryas, featuring a startling return to near glacial conditions around 12,000 years ago. Just as it seemingly succumbed to warming, the cold surged back, stalling the glacier's retreat, plunging vast sections of the planet back into unexpected freezing. For over a millennium, the advent of spring was thwarted, grasslands withered, and the pathway toward survival evolved once again into a battle against the elements. Yet even that last gasp of the Ice Age eventually relented. When the cold ultimately released its hold, the glaciers withdrew faster than before, rising seas season by season. Lands submerged beneath those vast waters disappeared. Land bridges, once conduit for humans and animals across continents, sank beneath the waves. Beringia, the sprawling tundra linking Asia and North America, slipped beneath the Bering Strait. Doggerland, once a lush site between Britain and mainland Europe, drowned beneath the rising North Sea. As the earth warmed, trees began to crawl northward, overtaking expansive grasslands. The robust forests replaced the once open terrains, with trees spreading throughout Europe, Asia, and North America, shrouding formerly unobstructed areas. Many Ice Age giants, creatures designed for the frigid open plains, found their existence constrained by this shifting domain. Some adapted, many vanished. Meanwhile, humans viewed this transformation as opportunity. With glaciers receding and climates normalizing, They stumbled upon areas enriched with freshwater lakes, fertile soils, and newfound resources. They pursued meltwater trails, camping beside newly formed lakes while embarking on a long journey from wandering hunters to something unique. The first settlers of a warming realm arose. Yet the glaciers left lasting memories etched within the landscape. Their valleys became crucial corridors for rivers, their sediments the foundations of future farmlands. Their thawing signified not merely the end of frigid times, but a distinct chapter of Genesis. Though the Ice Age has not entirely vanished, its stronghold has weakened. Massive ice walls, once deemed eternal, eroded away, replaced by fresh landscapes emerging anew. The final floods await, heralding the ultimate transformation of our shared planet. As glaciers weakened and the world shifted warmer, ice sheets melted unevenly. They did not simply dissolve, but retreated with fits and starts, sometimes quietly, other times explosively. Underneath and within shrinking glaciers, reservoirs of water formed, held captive by frozen barriers surviving for millennia. When those barriers finally broke, the earth itself roared. These were no ordinary floods, torrents so immense that they rewrote entire landscapes in mere days. Within North America lies one of the most remarkable instances, glacial Lake Agassiz, larger than all the Great Lakes combined. For centuries it remained imprisoned behind walls of land and ice, until, once enclosed barriers disintegrated, it exploded forth as a flood nearly beyond human comprehension. Water surged uncontrollably across land. Entire valleys drowned in the blink of an eye. Rivers that once ambled meekly transformed into raging torrents. Such floods carried boulders as though they were mere twigs, reshaping the ground, gouging out deep channels through bedrock while rushing toward oceans, effectively raising sea levels and altering the climate itself. Each flood represented a jolt within Earth's ecosystem, reshaping wind currents and redistributing heat globally. This was by no means an isolated incident. At glacier edges other hidden lakes awaited. Some violently broke forth, sending waves crashing across the landscapes. Others drained softly, their flows shaping new rivers that remain evident today. For the people of this migrating world, such floods were both terrifying and transformative. Camps and hunting grounds bordering swept-away lakes vanished within seconds. Valleys thrumming with animal life drowned underneath roaring waters. Yet, in each flood's wake, new landscapes flourished. Fertile plains and waterways that became vital lifelines for future generations. Even lakes that avoided bursting played significant roles in reshaping the world. Many remained trapped for centuries post-glaciers, accumulating deep scars carved by ice. Today's Great Lakes, including Lake Superior, Michigan, and Huron, are remnants of these frozen ages-old scars. Pockets of meltwater formed slowly as the ice receded. But not all of these lakes proved permanent. Some served as mere phantoms of the Ice Age, rushing away as swiftly as they arose or shrinking down, leaving behind contours once carved out, much like lost memory traces. To the locals of that age, these changes may have felt akin to the world shifting beneath their feet. A generation might grow alongside vast lakes, their distant shores barely visible, only for the subsequent generation to find that same lake vanished, replaced by grasslands or new rivers traversing where none existed prior. In the context of human memory, this land metamorphosed, alive and pivoting amidst transformations demanding continuous adaptation. Remarkably, these floods and unseen lakes did not signal endings, but beginnings. They transported away the last remnants of a glacial existence and sculpted today's geographical landscapes. The final floods carried forth remnants of that frozen era, tracing new rivers and river valleys fostering future civilizations. Fertile plains endured, enriched with sediments from long gone ages. In the silence accompanying their transformations, the Ice Age's last struggles yielded to a planet flavored by warmth and lush greenery. Yet, even while waters reshaped the earth, another narrative unraveled, tied to the fate of giant remnants that haunted the frozen planet for eons. As glaciers shrank and lands warmed, Ice Age giants confronted challenges they could not endure. For tens of thousands of years, mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant ground sloths, and saber-toothed cats persisted, expertly adapted to thrive amidst cold winds and vast grasslands. With the Ice Age waning, the foundation for their survival began to crumble. The initial blow hinged upon drastic climate change. As ice sheets melted, the expansive mammoth steppe, that arid grassy canvas sustaining herds of enormous grazers, narrowed. Limitless boundaries began to close in, and forests encroached upon land that used to feel open and endless. The grasses that sustained those colossal beasts began to vanish beneath the canopies of leaves. Forests replaced the once vibrant plains, obstructing the paths for mammals as they sought refuge. Mammoths and rhinoceroses, while they could still roam for some time, grew hemmed in, choking down their feeding routes. Predators dependent upon the expansive herds, dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, and cave lions, experienced declining food sources. Gradually, the intricately threaded fabric of Ice Age life began to unravel. But climate change wasn't the only influencer pressuring these colossal beasts. As humans spread into every corner of their world, equipped with honed tools and knowledge preserved through generations, they became formidable hunters. A single group of skilled humans wielding spears could bring down a mammoth. What once felt infrequent became eerily common as populations escalated and hunting techniques improved. Some researchers argue that the demise of these giants stemmed from more than just extensive hunting. It emanated from the combination of hunting proliferation and climate change. As great animals grappled against dwindling habitats and food supplies, the arrival of humans nudged their precarious balance toward utter collapse. Evidence persists. Scattered across the planet, a single mammoth unearthed in Siberia, encased in permafrost, reveals wounds from human weapons. Meanwhile, in North America, mammoth kill sites demonstrate signs of organized hunts, featuring open bones cleared of meat and marrow. Such incidents were not sharply isolated but fit into a wider pattern, echoing wherever humans converged with megafauna. Even as many exited or ventured toward extinction, some clung on and persevered. In the remote Arctic island of Wrangel, tiny mammoth populations survived thousands of years after their continental counterparts vanished. They gradually shrank in size, evolving into lesser versions of their forebears. Ultimately, even this small faction disappeared, yet their long survival endured as echoes from long-gone epochs. Such extinctions weren't immediate. They unfolded in waves. Certain regions witnessed the extinction of colossal creatures long before ice sheets melted. In Australia, great megafaunal marsupials vanished far in advance of northern glaciers beginning to thaw. In the Americas, mammoths and saber-toothed cats lingered until such time as warming and human migration reached the critical tipping point. By the time the Ice Age loosened its grip, the once great herds had dissipated, leaving nothing but silence and bones behind. This final extinction wave transformed land just as much as the glaciers themselves. The grasslands that previously kept open under herds quickly turned into forests. Predators reliant on larger prey either vanished or adapted to hunt smaller targets. Hands off, humans found themselves introduced to a simpler, quieter world without large beasts sharing their space. Nevertheless, the traces of those wild eras persisted. Musk oxen inhabited the Arctic tundra, while descendants of bison traversed spaces tucked away among fewer obstacles, challenging them to survive better than their relatives in hunterless environments. Even today's elephants echo the mighty mammoths within their lineage. The beasts that once defined the Ice Age now endure in memories scattered alongside frozen remnants, fossils, and faint recollections of what the earth had embraced. Their disappearances did not signify an end; rather, they heralded the onset of something new. As glaciers faded, crafted landscapes began to evolve in ways unrecognizable to those having withstood the Ice Age's zenith. The frost-bitten, desolate world of ice and dust gradually softened. Harsh edges, sculpted by glaciers, exchanged themselves for subtler forms. Rivers swelled, forests burgeoned, and the planet began the gradual transition from white to green. This warming was neither sudden nor singular. Its effects resonated throughout the region. Vast ice sheets that had dominated northern lands for eras shrank toward polar regions. Valleys formed, plains widened, and melting glaciers revealed scars filled with fresh water. New lakes emerged, anchors for life lineaged by strands of greenery reclaiming the land. Grasses once stretching immensely across the steppe surrendered to burgeoning forests. The first signs of birch and pine surfaced, hardy pioneers flourishing in poor soil. Eventually oak, elm, and other broadleaf trees spread northward as climates stabilized. In merely a few years, landscapes once barren became densely forested. With forests came novel wildlife, deer inhabiting shaded lands, accompanied by wild boar, whose smaller grazers found life among the trees. Wolves once hunting herds morphed into stealthy subspecies specialized for their forested homes. Even humans adjusted alongside the land. Hunting patterns transitioned as animals grew elusive. No longer did humans endlessly follow migrating herds of mammoths and bison. They now sought the more subtle creatures inhabiting woods, crafting bows and arrows for long-range strikes, developing tools suited for life beneath leafy canopies. Melting rivers brought nutrients to lands, rendering vast regions into fertile avenues teeming with life. Newly formed wetlands attracted waves of wildlife, where prior scarcity transformed into abundance. Even the oceans underwent transformation. As glaciers relinquished water back into the sea, coastal lines shifted inward, inundating plains with waves. Yet from within those renewed regions, oceans brimmed with marine life, offering hunting grounds rich with shellfish. Humans adapted yet again in this rapidly shifting world, using the emerging landscapes to their advantage. This transformation echoed not just physically, it reshaped the entire rhythm of existence. The Ice Age had heralded an era of extremes, with its unending harsh winters and frantic summers. Now, as climates heated, seasons received repose, spring broadened, summers softened, and winters moderated. Previously savage, the world saw gentleness seep through its veins, offering new opportunities. This shift provided a gateway to unprecedented beginnings. Gradually, humans began to remain in one place longer than before, gathering plants, hunting smaller prey, learning to interpret climatic variations cycles. Tentatively, they initiated shaping their environments by clearing forest plots and sowing seeds, erecting the first blocks toward an existence where they no longer exclusively followed nature, but began crafting it through their agency. The planet's rebirth was more than the simple conclusion of the Ice Age. It laid the foundations upon which today's world stands. The spreading forests across Europe and Asia, the remaining grasslands in North America, the swelling rivers, and newly formed lakes became the backdrop for rising human society. Thus, from these green realms emerged early agriculture, nascent villages, and eventually bustling cities. Yet, even within this greener sphere, remnants of the Ice Age lingered. Great lakes sculpted out by glaciers remained scattered across continents. Winds unveiled dust from the areas once issued forth from ice ground to powder. In the far north, tundra and ice settled permanently at the world's edges, manifesting echoes from the age that had elapsed. This planet did not simply rebound from the Ice Age, it reshaped itself alongside it, carving new valleys and rivers, crafting fertile plains in the wake of weakening ice. Glacial eras significantly remade the planet we live on. All valleys, rivers, and forests spreading in retreat from glaciers served as a testament to that frozen era. Written in stone are traces documenting the Ice Age's legacy, attempts to unravel a moment lost to time. Every valley chiseled by ice, every dislodged boulder, and every piece of sediment lodged in stone reconnects us to an epoch lost within shadowy dimensions. The most identifiable remnants stem from the landforms themselves. Across North America and Europe, U-shaped valleys unmistakably illustrate glacial patterns. Unlike typical rivers that carve winding paths, ice encompasses everything in its trajectory, yielding broad, deep valleys with sheer cliffs and flat bases. Landscapes standing testament to ancients' relentless power. Scattered amid plains, solitary boulders recount another tale. Glacial erratics bore witness to relentless journeys, carried by ice over considerable distances and left behind upon glacial melts. Monuments marking travels long before civilization emerged. Lakes represent another artifact from that icy epoch. The Great Lakes, Finger Lakes, and countless other freshwater bodies throughout the northern hemisphere arose from glacial weight's influence. When ice subsided, these deep gouges filled with meltwater, evolving into freshwater monuments we know today, each ripple a lasting reminder of an era swathed in frost. However, the subtler whispers of the Ice Age conceal themselves beneath our feet. In Greenland and Antarctica, ancient ice layers encapsulate air bubbles preserved for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists drill deep into these frigid archives, resulting in cores that catalog Earth's atmospheric history. Each layer maintains its time, incorporating temperature fluctuations and dust cast forth by vanished winds. From these frozen chronicles we glean insights into how the Ice Age commenced, how it breathed in cycles of warmth and cold, and how it ultimately relinquished its hold. Beneath our feet lie traces revealing stories of life left behind during that chilling era. From the lush plains across China, Europe, and North America, vast locations of dust blown by winds still form remnants of our agricultural future. Additionally, Ice Age bones surfaced, imposing remains of mammoths unearthed from permafrost, revealing ancient lives sealed in time. North America contains mastodon and giant sloth skeletons nestled beneath peat bogs, while Europe holds the skulls of cave lions and dire wolves in formerly inhabited darkened layers. Not only fossils, these relics serve as direct links to lives lived in a world where cold and survival shaped existence. The chronicles inscribed in stone and ice do not merely recount history, they remind us how significantly the Ice Age contributed to the world in which we now reside. Fertile soils, river valleys, and coastlines were molded in that frozen era. Even the distribution patterns of terrestrial flora and fauna across continents derive from the glacier's advance and retreat. To wander amidst these landscapes today is to stand in the footprints of a forsaken realm. A hiker tracing glacial valley rims, a farmer deploying plow through rich ancient loam, or a researcher holding mammoth tusk fragments, all synchronize in this narrative. This story, woven in stone, water, and bone, highlights connections to the past while simultaneously bridging into our current existence. While these traces serve as silent reminders of what once was, they represent clues, scattered pieces of a puzzle we continue unraveling. Every mapped valley, each drilled ice core, and discovered fossil builds our understanding, not only concerning the Ice Age, but of the forces sculpting our planet even today. As we heed these whispers through stone and ice, we see how the past remains. The Ice Age concluded millennia ago, but its imprints persist. Each time we gaze at a map, step outside, and observe valley silhouettes, river paths, or coastal outlines, we perceive the legacy of that frozen history. The world we inhabit isn't separate from the Ice Age. It's the world sculpted by its enduring presence. Most visually striking echoes are in the land itself. The Great Lakes sculpted by the glaciers contain a fifth of the planet's fresh water. Glacial sediments cloak New England's smooth hills and northern Europe's plains, a testament to the dust left behind as the sheet melted. Even many of today's river courses first appeared due to torrents of meltwater erupting forth from glaciers at the Ice Age's closing. In the far northern reaches, the Ice Age lingers with all its historical remnants. The tundra around Siberia, Alaska, and northern Canada remains frigid for extended periods annually. Remnants of a former world remain, entombed in frozen grounds. Within that frozen essence, mammoth bones intermingle with traces of bygone plants and even dust and bacteria that have awaited revival since the Ice Age. Our atmosphere carries echoes of past atmospherics. Levels of carbon dioxide and climatic rhythms were partly shaped by cycles of frigid state. Ocean currents behaviors and wind patterns influencing storm routes emerged from glaciers reshaping continents while redistributing the Earth's crust weight. Even in modern times, planets continue adjusting from the ice's immense weight pressing down. The land is gradually rising millimeter by millimeter, a slow rebound beginning thousands of years ago and continuing even now. The legacy of the Ice Age also lives in the fauna that still walks. Bison traverse across North America, gentle descendants of herds grazing alongside long-gone mammoths. The muskox continues to resist Arctic climates, unchanged since their Ice Age days. Meanwhile, reindeer and caribou traverse northern regions, following routes influenced by biologically inherited memories paralleling the Ice Age's voice. In ourselves, echoes endure as well, our ancestors' migrations guided by the Ice Age world. They crossed land corridors, passed low sea barriers, followed herds across the mammoth steppe, and honed survival methods meted out by bitter cold, a protocol woven over centuries. Skills forged during those frozen enterprises did not disappear with winter's end. They emerged as the foundation of everything that later followed. In the very landscapes farmed, in the river's roots, in the contour of coastlines, and within bones buried underfoot, the Ice Age never drifts too far away. It sculpted the earth, influencing our dynamics in many profound ways. Perhaps the most striking echo of all is this: the Ice Age instructs us about the swift pace of change. Entire ecosystems emerged and vanished. Seas drained and reappeared. Great giants roamed the earth only to disappear. Throughout it all, life adapted to survive. The frozen world may no longer exist, but its narrative remains ongoing. It persists amongst fragments unearthed from deep within rock. It resides in landscapes stretching around us. The Ice Age forms a prelude, not a singular chapter. When taking the final look back towards the Ice Age, each moment illustrates the full spectrum of that frozen era, from the initial creeping cold to the last fading traces. If you could traverse into the Ice Age now, step by step, past vivid forests and rivers of modernity, and into a world shrouded in frost, the first thing you would realize is the profound silence. The wind still dances, snow continues to fall, but an overarching stillness prevails, the sort of quiet emerging when time itself stretches wider than can be conceived. You'd see horizons unfurl towards vast plains, where the sky feels larger than the earth beneath you. Herds of mammoths would drift slowly across the steppe, their breath rising like clouds against the serene frosty air. In the distance, bison graze in lines that seem to continue indefinitely. Farther beyond, the outlines of patient predators would linger, silent as they await. The cold bites into your skin, yet the vibrant world around feels pulsatingly alive, more raw than today's existence, a planet untamed. You might pause beside a glacier's edge, its towering icy wall rising like a frozen cliff, sapphire-hued ice gleaming beneath sunlight. Water trickles down its face in slender streams, the nascent rivers that will one day carve through broad swathes of continents. The sound pulses low and steady, an enduring reminder that even monumental ice walls do not stand motionless. They breathe, they shift, and eventually they release. Turn away from the invasive ice and venture into land traces of life established therein. A small circle of huts crafted from bones and hides, smoke wafting skyward from a central fire. Footsteps track in the snow, sharpened tools rest nearby, and hunters soon return from the horizon, faces marked by wind and sun. They regard the same frozen realm not with wonder but familiarity. For them this place embodies not history but home. To traverse through this sphere would allow witnessing Earth in its unadorned form, void of cities and roads, merely bearing velocities that slowly carve nature over geological epochs. The Ice Age was neither a frozen confinement nor a tomb. It served as a teacher and a sculptor, a beginning in its essence. Though long vanished, its presence never truly recedes. It lingers within valleys and lakes shaped by glaciers, in soil that nourishes crops, and in animals ambulating across the planet's coldest extremities. It simmers in our past, captured in the fires ignited by primal hands and the tools that directed the paths of snowy terrains. Stand outside on winter nights when air stings and tranquility reigns, and you might carry a sense of it, not inherently yours, but written in stones beneath your feet, hushed by the weight of time itself. The Ice Age is not merely a past left behind. It shapes the ground we walk upon, the lives we lead. Its narrative is embedded in the world. If you listen closely, it remains audible, faint yet steady, like footprints left behind in ancient snow. As we depart from this realm of ice, we carry it with us. Each glacier, every herd, every temporary encampment of forebears has guided us to this precise moment. Though the Ice Age is now distant, its tale remains inscribed on the earth, within USA legacy written into landscapes, rivers, hills, and the tranquil expanse of the sky. In transitioning to a warmer age, we are connected yet molded by one that preceded, helping clarify our role within this ongoing story, not as separate from what has come but as integral to its continuation. The Ice Age never completely concludes. It resonates through stone, water, memory, and stillness. If one listens patiently, it is waiting, unfurling evermore.